At first, the hearing looked like just another routine exchange on Capitol Hill. Senators asking questions, officials giving carefully worded responses, and cameras quietly recording every second. But then something unexpected happened. One question suddenly shifted the entire room. And it wasn't about budgets, policy, or politics. It was about a name that still sends shockwaves through Washington: Jeffrey Epstein. For years, the Epstein case has hovered over the justice system like a shadow that refuses to disappear. Documents have been released, investigations have come and gone. Yet somehow, the biggest questions remain unanswered, of a crime or that could lead to other crimes. We frequently, in criminal enterprises, subpoena by the sitting United States Senator. Senator, they would have to have believed you were part of a criminal conspiracy, is my understanding. Would a judge have to sign off on it? On the subpoena? Yes, Senator. Well, for a subpoena, Duke Stoom, Joe Smith probably took it straight to the judge. Now, the phone companies, particularly their general counsel, if they're worried about civil liability, even with a subpoena to get the phone records of a sitting United States Senator. Did I mention it was a sitting United States Senator? Yes, Senator. The general counsel for that phone company, let's say AT&T, they have the right to seek to quash that subpoena, don't they? Phone companies frequently do that. Yeah? And a smart general counsel for that phone company is going to call the sitting United States Senator and say, "Would you like to weigh in on this? Would you like me to quash the subpoena? We're talking about invading someone's privacy, here by a sitting United States Senator." Could the general counsel for the phone company do that? Well, Senator, if they believe that a crime could have been committed, they could not tip off the person who committed the crime. Again, I can't comment on details of this particular case. I'm just asking you theoretically. I've never seen you commit a crime. But let's suppose, okay, they didn't want to tip off the sitting United States Senator, but the phone company and the general counsel for the phone company are companies, if there were more than one involved, could say, you know, this is serious as an aneurysm. This is serious as 4 heart attacks and a stroke. This is a sitting United States Senator, so general counsel would likely advise the CEO. Well, you need to file a motion to quash. The telephone companies could have contested those subpoenas, could they not? Hypothetically, yes. I can't talk about the facts of this particular case. We're talking hypothetical. Senator, subpoenas are issued all the time through phone companies working with the general counsel. But they can file a motion to quash. They could, yes. Yeah, in any case, snorts. And if they should have filed a motion to quash, and a reasonable person would have filed a motion to quash because this is a sitting United States Senator and they didn't file a motion to quash, they would incur civil liability, wouldn't they? Senator, typically phone companies follow a subpoena from a United States. I know they do, but they don't have to. They could challenge it, Senator. Yeah, and if they don't challenge it, they better have a damn good reason. Right. Right, Senator. I can't talk about the facts of this particular. This is just a hypothetical. In general, hypothetically, Senator, maybe they didn't recognize any of the names of the 8 sitting United States Senators. Hypothetically. That was a joke, or maybe they should have gone to Amazon and buy some testicles online instead of just saying, "Sure, I'll just show you the phone records of a sitting United States Senator on the basis of an administrative subpoena." Now, do you have copies of the subpoena applications for these 8? Senator, I can't discuss anything regarding this. You can't even tell me if you have copies. I can't discuss any of this. When are you going to, General, when are you going to be able to discuss it? I can't discuss whether there is or is not a pending investigation that brought to light. If there is a pending investigation, I don't want this to get swept under the rug, okay? Because I think you're going to get pushed back from all quarters. I think the telecommunication companies are going to be all over you like a bad rash because they've got liability here for just turning over these records when they knew what was going on. I think some FBI agents may have some liability here. I think a special counsel might have some liability here. If I were your special counsel and you had appointed me, and I wanted to get the records of a sitting United States Senator, is that something you would expect me to tell you as Attorney General of the United States? They better have. Yeah. And do we know in this instance of the 8 sitting United States Senators if they told Attorney General Garland? Senator, I just learned about this very recently, as did Director Patel, and we cannot discuss the details. I don't know many of... Well, maybe we ought to get Attorney General Garland here. Do you know if the special counsel told FBI Director Wray? Is that something? Let me put it another way. If I were your special counsel and you were the director of the FBI and I'm trying to get the phone records of a sitting United States Senator. Did I mention it was a sitting United States Senator? Is that something that you would expect me to tell you as director of the FBI? In general, I would believe the FBI would help execute the subpoenas. Yeah? To the business. Okay, I want to switch to another subject in the 12 minutes that I have left since everybody else got to go over. I've got to ask you about this, General. Cough. Clears throat. Secretary Howard Lutnik on October 1 gave an interview to the New York Post about Mr. Epstein, and he described Mr. Epstein as, quote, the greatest blackmailer ever. Close quote. Have you reviewed that transcript of that interview? I have not reviewed the transcript, but I saw the clip of it. Okay. It appears that Secretary Lutnik was Mr. Epstein's next-door neighbor. In fact, their townhomes shared a wall. And the reporter that was talking to Mr. Lutnik, she asked how other prominent men could have been associated with Epstein when Mr. Lutnik could immediately sense that he was a, quote, pervert. And then Secretary Lutnik said, or rather the reporter said, did they see it and ignore it? Do you remember that from the interview? I do, and Commerce Secretary Lutnik said, no, they participated. And then Commerce Secretary Lutnik goes on to say, quote, that's what his MMO was, you know, get a massage, get a massage. And what happened in that massage room, I assume, was a video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever. Blackmailed people. That's how he had money. End quote. Is that true? Senator, as our July memo said, we did not uncover evidence. This case has gone through 3 administrations as well as former U.S. Attorney. Clears throat. I know that, Pam, but have you interviewed Secretary Lutnik? No, Senator. Do you plan to, if he wants to talk to the FBI or the FBI wants to talk to him, that is more than on? Don't you think you ought to talk to him after this interview? Senator, if Howard Lutnik wants to speak to the FBI and if Director Patel wants to speak to Howard Lutnik? Absolutely. Okay, maybe we ought to get Mr. Lutnik in here too, Mr. Chairman. Senator, who helped him? Who knew what he was doing? And why does it still feel like pieces of the story are missing? That tension exploded during a Senate hearing when Senator John Kennedy turned directly to Attorney General Pam Bondi and asked about a claim that many people watching at home had never heard before. According to an interview given by Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnik, Epstein wasn't just another wealthy criminal with dark secrets. Lutnik described him as something far more calculated. In his words, Epstein may have been the greatest blackmailer ever. The implication behind that statement is enormous. If Epstein truly built his empire through blackmail, then it would mean the scandal is far bigger than one man. It would mean powerful figures could have been manipulated, recorded, or compromised. When Kennedy brought up the interview during the hearing, the room suddenly felt different. The conversation shifted from general discussions about investigations to something far more explosive. Kennedy asked Bondi a straightforward question. Had she reviewed the transcript of Lutnik's interview? Bondi responded calmly. She said she had seen a clip of it, but she had not reviewed the full transcript. For many people watching the exchange, that answer raised eyebrows immediately. The Epstein case has been one of the most controversial criminal stories in modern history. If a senior official publicly suggested Epstein ran a massive blackmail operation involving powerful people, why wouldn't the Justice Department examine that claim closely? Kennedy pressed further. He explained that Lutnik had once lived next door to Epstein. Their homes reportedly shared a wall. That detail alone made the statement more intriguing. If someone that close to Epstein believed he was running a blackmail scheme, it would seem like something investigators would want to explore. Kennedy repeated the line from the interview. Lutnik had reportedly said that Epstein's method involved inviting influential men into private rooms under the guise of massages, and that what happened inside those rooms may have been secretly recorded. In other words, Epstein may not have just been exploiting victims. He may have been collecting leverage. When Kennedy finished recounting the claim, he asked the obvious follow-up. Had the Department of Justice interviewed Lutnik about it? Bondi's answer was simple. No for a moment. The hearing went quiet. Kennedy then asked the next logical question. Did the DOJ plan to interview him? Bondi didn't say yes or no. Instead, she gave a conditional answer. If Lutnik wanted to speak with the FBI, or if the FBI wanted to speak with him, the conversation, who were the people who associated with him? Did anyone help enable his crimes? And if blackmail truly played a role in his operations, how far did that influence extend? Those questions remain largely unanswered, and every time government officials release new documents without addressing the biggest mysteries, public frustration grows. During the hearing, Kennedy appeared to be channeling that frustration. His questions reflected a belief held by many people that transparency has been incomplete. When the Justice Department says it has released all responsive records, critics respond by pointing out that large portions of the files remain hidden or heavily redacted for survivors of Epstein's trafficking operation. The issue is even more personal. Many have spent years asking the same question. Who else was involved? The possibility that Epstein used blackmail to build influence only deepens the concern. If powerful individuals were compromised, it could explain why the case still feels unresolved years later. That, of course, claims about blackmail remain controversial and largely unproven. Officials have repeatedly stated that investigations across multiple administrations have not uncovered evidence supporting some of the most dramatic theories surrounding Epstein. But the absence of answers has allowed speculation to grow, and that's why the exchange between Kennedy and Bondi resonated so strongly. It wasn't just about one interview, one subpoena, or one investigation. It was about whether the justice system is willing to fully confront one of the most disturbing criminal networks in modern history that Kennedy's questions suggested he believes there are still leads worth pursuing. Bondi's responses suggested the department is cautious about discussing ongoing or sensitive matters. Between those two positions lies the tension that continues to define the Epstein case: transparency versus secrecy, accountability versus institutional protection. For the public watching the hearing, the moment served as a reminder that the Epstein story is far from finished. Every new document release, every congressional hearing, and every interview connected to the case seems to reopen the same debate. Did investigators uncover everything, or are there still pieces of the puzzle hidden away in vaults, archives, or sealed files? Until those questions are fully answered, the Epstein scandal will likely remain one of the most controversial and unresolved stories in American justice. And exchanges like the one between Kennedy and Bondi ensure that the pressure for answers isn't going away anytime